Tonight on CFTK-TV News, Terrace is set to get some new electric vehicles for the RCMP. Ukraine is set to get about $50 billion in funds. And BC's Premier recently got asked a question in regards to the value of houses.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Good evening, I'm Cale Maslin. Here's what's making news in the Northwest and beyond today. A ceremony was recently held east of Terrace to commemorate the opening of a new commercial vehicle inspection station on Highway 16. The station was originally scheduled to open about 6 months from now, but instead IDL Projects Inc., the ones who constructed the project, managed to be finished quick enough for it to become publicly available right now. The project cost is about $34.3 million in total, and was paid for via joint contributions from the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure, who provided $19.2 million, as well as Transport Canada, who gave out $15.1 million for the project. The main selling point of the station is that it uses advanced transportation technology to quicken the inspection process for commercial vehicles, which should end up saving drivers time, fuel, in addition to money. In a recent announcement, it was revealed that the Terrace RCMP will be getting electric vehicles from the BC provincial government to test their effectiveness during everyday patrols. While they will not be the only BC detachment to try out these vehicles, Terrace will also be receiving 3 electric vehicle charging stations at the police station to make sure that they can be recharged whenever it's needed. Some other charging stations installed by TELUS will likely appear in the future across from the Aquatic Center, although TELUS will need to get permission first. As for the type of vehicles that will be used for the local patrols, it's said that the Terrace RCMP will have access to a Chevrolet Blazer or Ford F-150 Lightning, with both being modified for proper police work. As part of their celebration of the end of a 2-year relationship building project, the District of Kitimat and Haisla Nation Council have signed a friendship agreement. This signing was finally publicized after officially happened on the weekend at the beginning of June and resulted from the work the two parties have done via the Community Economic Development Initiative, or CEDI program. With their most recent within the CEDI program project coming to an end, it was important to both sides that future framework was set to make sure that they could keep their relationship going and work on other projects at later points as well. A version of the agreement is currently available on the District of Kitimat's website. A major agreement has been reached in Italy, where the Group of 7 has decided to provide $50 billion to Ukraine. The money will come from interest collected on nearly $300 billion in frozen Russian assets. CTV's Annie Bergeron-Oliver has more from the G7 summit in Italy.
In the middle of 2 major wars and re-election campaigns on the horizon for many of these G7 leaders, this year's summit a chance to project unity, and already there is some success in that endeavor.
Another reminder to Putin, we're not backing down. In fact, we're standing together against this illegal aggression.
The leaders around this table have agreed to a new U.S.-led proposal that would give much-needed military and humanitarian aid to Ukraine. That support coming in the form of a $50 billion loan, paid for by the billions of dollars in interest accrued every year on the nearly $300 billion in frozen Russian assets. Canada will contribute $5 billion.
We know how important it is to make sure you have the tools to continue to defend not just your country, but all of our democracies and the principles of the rules-based order.
The Prime Minister and President Zelensky meeting on the sidelines of the summit after Canada also announced it's sending Ukraine more ammunition, remote weapon systems, rocket motors, and light armored vehicles.
These are state-of-the-art vehicles built by Canadian workers in London, Ontario, and this summer Ukrainian troops will be trained in their use.
While the war in Ukraine dominated day 1 of the G7 summit, the war in the Middle East was also a priority, with the leaders coming together to reaffirm their support for Biden's previously released peace plan. Annie Bergeron-Oliver, CTV News, Bari, Italy.
Coming up next, a real estate deal has become a bitter legal battle. Welcome back. Now to a real estate deal that has turned into a bitter legal battle. At the center is a $4 million home in Vancouver's west side. It's a cautionary tale for both buyers and sellers considering unconventional agreements. The sellers aren't leaving and the buyers are beyond frustrated. Shannon Patterson explains.
Last June, this Westside house was sold for $3.9 million to a couple from Penticton who wanted to retire in Vancouver to live close to their grandchildren.
So they found this house, purchased it, and the sellers asked to remain in the property till September. So they agreed to that.
The sellers signed a short-term lease agreement with a move-out date of September 30th.
And my clients continued to stay in the property. At this point, they were no longer seller and buyer. The sale completed. So the relationship between them became landlord and tenant.
And when September 30th rolled around, they didn't move out.
The sellers say they stayed because they weren't given proper legal notice and because the buyers held on to $100,000 of the agreed-upon purchase price during the rental period, which is more than is legally allowed to keep as a damage deposit.
We asked for the money back. We asked for the $100,000 back, and there was no response. The landlords completely ignored our request, and the date passed, right? September 30. And this is where the landlords are claiming that my clients are squatting.
They haven't been paying rent, but they've been taking the position that they're entitled to deduct their rent from the $100,000 holdback.
The residential tenancy branch sided with the buyers and granted them an order of possession, but last week that order was set aside by a judge.
So under the act, my clients are still not squatting. They are still there pursuant to the agreement.
It's almost a year, 9 or 10 months beyond the point when they expected to commence their retirement and be close to family, and they haven't been able to do that.
As the case heads back to the residential tenancy branch, some advice for buyers and sellers.
I would say if you're going to enter into a complex transaction like that, get a lawyer.
One thing we do agree on is that clients should have lawyers when it comes to an agreement that is not straightforward.
For now, the people that sold this house last June are still legally allowed to live here, and the new owners remain in Penticton. Shannon Patterson, CTV News, Vancouver.
In fixing the housing crisis, will some homeowners have to take a hit on the value of their home? That's the question that was posed to the Premier recently. It's an idea more British Columbians are getting used to as thousands of people move here each month. CTV's Rob Buffum reports.
After touring a low-income housing project in Vancouver's downtown east side, Premier Eby set out what he thinks will matter most to voters this October.
The election question will be who is best positioned to address this housing crisis.
The housing crunch has become so dire, even many homeowners now say they'd support a dip in prices.
Because right now they're a ludicrous price.
A poll by Nanos Research last September showed 70% of Canadians surveyed would be happy or somewhat happy if housing prices went down.
So it's more affordable for the next generation.
On the streets of Victoria today, the sentiment in that poll was prevalent, even amongst homeowners who would lose some equity if prices dipped.
I think it would be a good thing for young people if the prices could go down.
It's a fine line for politicians who risk rankling homeowners, many depending on property as their primary retirement nest egg, or upsetting some wanting into the market, like the Prime Minister did when he told the Globe and Mail last month houses should retain their value.
One way to get affordability is to get lower house prices, but that doesn't sell politically. And so they're trying to sort of, I think, ride two horses with one butt, so to speak.
Asked flat out today whether he wanted house prices to go down, Eby indicated he did, while maintaining there'd be opportunities for homeowners to make a profit under new rules allowing for multiple units on single lots.
I hope for a soft landing, a gentle landing in housing prices in the market. I think market housing prices are unaffordable for British Columbians.
The NDP has staked much of its chances in the next election on persuading the public, especially young voters and their parents, its efforts to cool off, if not decrease prices, will work. Robert Buffum, CTV News, Victoria.
Teachers and other workers within the Vancouver school system are sounding the alarm about low morale. And as CTV's Martin McMahon reports, there are fears it could lead to educators quitting at a time our population is booming.
At a time many schools are bursting at the seams, some teachers are thinking of walking away from the profession.
If everyone leaves at once, then there will be a huge problem.
Labor groups for teachers and other workers within the Vancouver school system are sharing the results of a survey where 1 in 3 respondents said they plan to leave teaching within 5 years.
Members are feeling increasingly like they're being asked to do more with less. What they're finding is that there are increasing needs and complexities in their classroom, and we really want to be doing the best we can to serve all of our students, but we're finding it increasingly difficult.
And an area of particular concern, what these teachers say are the lack of appropriate support for students with special learning needs.
And we want to make sure they're learning in an equitable fashion. And when we're not able to do that, when the tasks and the demands are increased, that's when we start really feeling awful in our jobs.
I have no doubt that similar responses would be forthcoming if we did the survey in Surrey.
Parents we spoke with were concerned about the survey.
As someone who is going to have a baby within the next year, it's really scary. I hope that they can achieve better working conditions and more pay so that good teachers and teachers that love to be teachers are retained.
I think there's not enough support for special needs kids, for kids with learning differences.
I did not know that. It's unfortunate. It's disappointing. It's sad.
The Vancouver School Board says retention data from recent years doesn't indicate a spike of resignations. It adds it is trying its best to ensure good working conditions for teachers. Martin McMahon, CTV News, Vancouver.
Turning to tonight's weather, the North Coast is set to see mainly cloudy conditions at plus a low of 8 degrees. The Terrace-Kitimat area will deal with a chance of showers and a low at 7 degrees, and the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District is also likely to deal with a chance of showers, while their low is at 2 degrees. On the North Coast, their next week or so should see mostly mixes of sun and cloud, plus some rain and a high shifting between 13 and 14 degrees. In the Terrace-Kitimat area, the week for them is similar in that it will include rain and mixed sunny and cloudy days, with the high moving between 13 and 21 degrees. And in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, the upcoming week should again see some rain, but mostly mixed sunny and cloudy days otherwise, and the high will bounce from 10 to 23 degrees. Checking out the highways now, visit Drive BC for the latest and up-to-date conditions, and as always, drive safe out there. On Highway 16, there is utility work, bridge maintenance, construction work, paving operations, and several special events. Highway 37 has some paving operations, maintenance, roadside brushing, and frost heaves, and the Telegraph Creek Road has frost heaves as well. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cams. Still to come, the summer season is seeing not only wildfires, but bird-based attacks as well. Welcome back. Imagine going to the hospital to give birth and waiting hours for an epidural. The BC Nurses Union says a chronic nursing shortage is now affecting new parents on Vancouver Island. Anna McMillan reports on the crisis in the labor and delivery units of the South Island.
It's my job to advocate for these nurses. Nurses in the South Island's only labor and delivery ward who are telling their union they're spread thin. We have nurses reaching out in moral distress because of the significant nursing shortage leading to delays in epidurals for expected moms. Kate Jarvis with the BC Nurses Union says she doesn't know how long the delays are or how many additional nurses are needed on the unit at the Victoria General Hospital. But I do know that there are vacancies. We hear nothing but stories of being short on this unit and other units on the hospital. She says epidurals can be time-consuming. When an anesthetist gives an epidural, that requires a nurse to be with that patient one-on-one to monitor for any adverse effects. Island Health says it triages based on patients' conditions, so sometimes non-urgent care is delayed.
It is a moment of extreme emotions.
Healthcare critic Camille Curry remembers her 2 deliveries well.
I know what that anxiety feels like when all of a sudden you have to put all your faith in the system. And what if the system isn't really there to catch you?
Island Health says over the past year, VGH's maternity ward has hired 10 nurses to undergo labor and delivery training. It says in order to support and retain maternity care nurses, VGH recently revised the staffing and rotation schedule. Changes include new 8-hour shifts, increased daytime staffing, and a standardized paid on-call rotation overnight.
Patients' needs continue to go unmet, and our dedicated healthcare workers are truly burning out.
The nurses union is pushing for minimum nurse-patient ratios.
We don't want there to be adverse outcomes that potentially might be missed because we don't have enough staff on the units.
Anna McMillan, CTV News, View Royal.
It's that time of year when newcomers to Vancouver are startled and locals know we have to wait it out. We're talking about crows dive bombing people during nesting season. As Isabella Zavarisi reports, wildlife groups are being inundated with calls, but there is nothing they can do about them either.
Sometimes they warn us, and sometimes they don't.
I did get dive bombed in the back of the head once, and there was another time they just kind of fly right by.
Crow parents are very protective of their babies and their nests. So if you experience dive bombing, those are parents protecting their nests.
It's fledgling season. Baby crows are hopping around as they can't fly yet. Their parents keeping a watchful eye on you from above.
You walk your normal route and all of a sudden crows are harassing you. It's normal. And there's not much you can do about it.
Linda Bacher with Wildlife Rescue says it's receiving dozens of calls daily from people worried about the aggressive behavior and the fledglings.
People often think they're in trouble, they can't fly, what's going on, they're injured, they're concerned. Most of the time, nothing to be concerned about.
If you're not pro-crow and want to prevent a sneak attack, you could try wearing a hat, holding an umbrella, changing your usual walking route, or maybe it's time to play by their rules.
Just a bag of cat food, just generic cat food, high in protein, right?
Jason Campbell seems to have figured it out.
I've never had any bad interactions with them.
He's found a way to their heart through their stomach. Campbell says the crows now know who he is because of the regular feedings.
Yeah, they'll follow me for about 8 blocks or so. And then if I don't see them for about 6 months, they'll still recognize me.
Some may find that threatening. Whether you love or hate them, you have to admit it. They're part of the neighborhood too.
It's just a matter of being aware, being compassionate.
Dive bomb season isn't done just yet. Prepare for a few more weeks of ducking and dodging. Isabella Zavarisi, CTV News, Vancouver.
The surge in online shopping led to an unfortunate crime: porch pirates stealing packages delivered to your home. In the past, it's usually been a random act of theft, but now it appears thieves are actually ordering the items themselves that they plan to steal. CTV's Pat Foran reports.
Criminals have devised a new way to steal packages off your doorstep. It starts with something being delivered to your home that you weren't expecting.
Then I found out it was a Mac notebook and that it was $4,900 and it had somebody else's name on it, but our address.
Denise Bayerjean of Etobicoke was surprised when a MacBook Pro showed up on her doorstep. Her husband then noticed there was a pending charge for it on their Costco account. Not long after, someone came to their home to pick it up.
The Uber driver said, I have a requisition to pick up a package here that was sent to the wrong address. And I said, you can't have this package because we're on the hook for $5,000 for it.
Concerned, Bayerjean contacted Costco and the police. It appears someone ordered the package with the couple's credit card information through their Costco account. Once it was delivered, thieves planned to take it, but Bayerjean brought it inside before they could.
They were waiting that no one was going to be home at our house, and they were going to steal this package. And I think our house was being watched.
The thing about fraud is that in many cases, we never know how the financial information is stolen.
Claudio Popa, a cybersecurity expert, says it's a new twist on an old scam. It's called the double-decker scam because now thieves need to hack two sources of information to make it work.
It used to be called a dropship scam or fraud, and now they call them double-decker simply because they steal one piece of identity and one piece of financial information, and they put them together.
In the case of the laptop, Costco took it back and the couple did not incur any charges. Buyer Jean says she wanted to warn others what happened in case a strange package shows up at your door.
Other people should be very aware not to hand over a package that has somebody else's name on, even if it has your address.
And now we turn our attention to the stock markets. The Canadian dollar is down 3/100ths of a cent. The price of gold is up $31.10. Oil is down 17 cents. Natural gas is down 7 cents. Aluminum is down $18.50. In Toronto, the TSX is down 59.01 points. The Venture Index is down 1.11. In New York, the Dow Jones is down 57.94. And NASDAQ is up 21.32. Still ahead, the Olympics is going a route that it hasn't gone before with its power. Welcome back. For the first time in Olympic history, Paris 2024 will source 100% of its electricity from carbon-free power, which is possible thanks to 6 wind farms and 2 solar farms from one of France's largest utilities. NBC's Chase Kane has more.
The Olympic flame lit up the famous beaches of Normandy on its relay to Paris, and soon Normandy will help light up the entire Paris Olympics thanks to these.
It's part of a bigger selection all over the country to make advantage of different climate conditions. It is important because today we are facing a global climate crisis.
Denise manages this wind farm for EDF, one of France's largest utilities, which teamed up with Paris 2024 to power these Summer Olympics with 100% carbon-free electricity.
This is a huge step toward the decarbonation of large-scale events.
This year's Super Bowl in Las Vegas was the first to be powered entirely by renewables, and the Paris Olympics have been working for years to go even further. EDF built 6 wind farms and 2 solar plants, along with adding solar panels to the roofs of stadiums, the athletes' village, even a temporary solar array floating on the Seine River.
And this is, one of the main legacies. Feeding that with renewables goes one step beyond, because you don't build new renewable capacity just for 2 times 2 weeks. It doesn't make sense.
The head of Paris 2024's sustainability efforts is most proud of that virtually all of this wind and solar is permanent, providing clean, green energy for decades.
It's like the first step, and then when the next Olympic Games will be hosted in other countries, they will see us, France, as an example, with all the climate crisis that we know.
In Paris, I'm National Climate Reporter Chase Kane.
The mayor of Kamloops is getting his salary cut due to an ongoing feud with the rest of City Council. A news release from City Council says the 10% cut will last for 6 months, or until Reed Hamer-Jackson apologizes for an unspecified code of conduct violation against Councillor Katie Neustatter. Hamer-Jackson said he has no intention of apologizing. The move comes over a year after a year of conflict between Hamer-Jackson, council, and city staff, including allegations that the mayor has poor communication skills, won't accept responsibility, ignores confidentiality protocols, and misunderstands the rules around conflict of interest. That's all of our news for now. From everyone at CFTK-TV News, I'm Cale Maslin. Thanks for watching.